Welcome to the Smoky Caribou, and welcome to another Workshop Wednesday. Today I want to cover in a little bit more detail my complete PCM delete of this truck. It's something I'm getting quite a few comments and questions about, and it's also a really neat thing that you can do with these vehicles, because I was building this truck to go remote, and eliminating the computer system for being a potential problem is a huge benefit. This is one of the only vehicles you can actually do a complete PCM delete, because this is a mechanical engine, meaning that you need almost no electronics to run the engine. Your throttle cable goes directly to the throttle linkage. Your fuel pump and injection pump runs off the camshaft, and being a diesel engine, it does not need spark. It's a compression engine. There's a few things that the PCM does that you need to bypass or delete. First and foremost is the fuel shutoff solenoid. Mine has been replaced with a cable. With this engine stock, the fuel shutoff solenoid is closed when it doesn't have 12 volts of power. So when you go to start your truck, you turn the ignition, it opens the solenoid, and you can start your engine. When you shut it off, it literally just closes. If you run out of battery, your engine will not run. So we put a cable on this one. You literally just pull it open, push it closed. The alternator is another big one, and I went through a whole bunch of forums, and I went with the external voltage regulator that most people go with, and I was running into problem after problem after problem. And I did the correct install running through a relay, so it's getting proper battery voltage and everything, but it was still getting major overcharging issues, sometimes up into like 17 volts. What I did was I took the whole alternator into a shop here in town, Mills Electric, and he put in an internal voltage regulator. There was only $60 to get that job done. I had spent over $300 on the external voltage regulators, and I've heard that they only last about 6 months. This internal one should last probably the lifetime of the alternator, possibly even the truck. The only thing that you have to do, other than get it installed, I didn't do the installation in the alternator, but you do have to put a signal wire. That tells your alternator to turn on when the engine is running. If you don't have this signal wire and you just have it direct to 12 volts, it will drain your battery. If you have an automatic transmission, you will lose your overdrive. There is a way to bypass it. I don't know anything about that because I just did the standard transmission. The other thing you need to look into is whether or not you want to keep your cruise control. This truck did have cruise control, but same as the motorhome, being such a big rig and just needing to be focused, I have no interest in using cruise control, so I actually just disconnected mine. The heat grid is an important one if you're going to be driving your truck in the winter time. These Cummins engines are different from your typical diesel. Regular diesels have glow plugs. This has a heat grid, so it actually heats the air going into the intake. I used all of the existing hardware for this. The only difference I made is the trigger wire I put right to a push button within the cab through a relay, so you're not running that voltage through your button. You're just running 12 volts through the button and then full voltage down to the heat grid. The last thing I had to do for my bypass is the air conditioner. When I was doing the rebuild on the front end, when I had the front clip off, I thought I was going to get rid of the AC. I've never owned a vehicle with AC before, but a couple people had recommended, since it's working, may as well keep it. Well, I did put everything back on when I put the truck back together and I got it recharged. What an absolute luxury that has been in my life. Coming back from a super hot hike or driving in these hot conditions, it is so nice to be able to just turn on the air conditioner, but it does go through the PCM. The AC was supposed to be one of the easier ones, and it was one of the ones that I actually had a fair bit of trouble with. It was my own fault. I didn't read the wiring schematic close enough. What I did the first time is I went through the bottom of the fuse box and I just took the wires off the bottom of the AC relay and I put them into a switch in the cab. Well, it worked, but what it was doing was bypassing the high pressure and low pressure sensors. on the AC system, so it was running the compressor all the time. And I would have ended up cooking the compressor or freezing the compressor if I kept it like that. Well, the folks at Steel Horse Performance helped me out with that one, and we got it wired up properly now. It's still just through a switch in the cab, but within your wiring harness, and please do your research. I'm just telling you how it was on this truck. There's a blue and orange wire here, and then a brown wire over there. Those are the wires that act as a switch through the PCM. We cut those and just ran it into my switch in the cab. So now when I turn on my air conditioner, it just runs the fan, and then the switch turns on the compressor, and I can just leave it on. It runs like a regular air conditioner now. It cycles itself on and off. The one thing that I'm missing now without this PCM is I do not have a tachometer. I knew I was going to lose that, so I made notes of where my shifting RPM was in each gear through speed, so I know what speed I have to shift. That's kind of how I'm getting by right now. Eventually I'd like to get a tachometer put back in this thing, but it's a little bit more challenging with a diesel engine because you can't go off the ignition system and you can't use the sensor on the harmonic balancer like it does from the factory. So you have to go off of your alternator. Those tachometers are like $300 to $400. So it's not in the budget this season, but it's something that's going to eventually happen for sure. So that's my PCM delete. It was an easy enough thing to do if you have a little bit of mechanical knowledge or a little bit of help from somebody. Don't really need any specialty tools or anything. And it eliminates the possibility of a computer failure, which on an older vehicle and these 12 valves sounds like a pretty common thing. So if you're heading out into the middle of nowhere, maybe look into doing it. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody.